My name is James Steffes. I retired as an Engine Chief, E7. I grew up in central Minnesota, and I've always been interested in going to sea and that kind of stuff. And I had a neighbor who served on a destroyer in the Korean War, and he had a big scar on his nose. He was a hot shellman in the gun mount, and he said his job was an asbestos glove, and when the gun fired and the shell would come out, he was supposed to hold his hand and then direct it down. Well, he says one of them came end over end and caught him right across the nose. But he used to tell me stories, and that's all I wanted to hear. My dad was a Marine, so. But anyway, when I graduated from high school, I talked to both of the recruiters, and the Navy offered me the nuclear power school. So I enlisted there in June 1959. I went to boot camp in Great Lakes, 9 weeks. In those days, we wore leggings, and our notebook was folded in half and fit down in there. And we marched in the drill hall all the time. But when we graduated, it was on Ross Field, which was all grass and gopher holes. So we practiced in being in step, marching properly. But then when you got on that field, you were just kind of hoping you didn't fall. So that was kind of strange. In those days, we scrubbed our own clothes. We tied them up on the line, and when they came out, we folded them back up, and they cleaned the barracks constantly. And interesting story, I was working in the head one day, and company commander came in and he says, "Smoke break." So we went out there in the back, and the guys are all lighting up, and he comes around and he says, "Where's your cigarette?" I says, "I don't smoke." He says, "Get back in there and go to work." Well, guess what I did the next day? Went down and got me a cigarette pack, and I became a smoker. But he was kind of tough as nails. They asked me sometimes if I remember my boot camp. I says, well, my service number was 5324281. My company commander was named Lewis. He was a chief machinist mate. Yeah, it kind of had an effect on me. And it was in the summertime, so we were wearing whites. And I think we graduated in like September, and then I went right to A school, same place. So it's cold up there in the winter. I went from there to just across the bridge to Engine A school, which is diesel. And then I went from there to submarine school in London. And they were kind of rushing everybody through at that time, so they took out of each class of the submarine school, instead of going out and getting qualified in the fleet, they picked certain ones based on our scores and told us we would go from submarine school right down the road and start nuclear power school, which was, gosh, it was like 18 months in a classroom and then another 18 months on the site. Well, I went to the defense of one of my shipmates and got into a fight, and they called me in there, me and the 3 guys, and he says, "No, we can't have you on a submarine, and there are no surface nuclear powered, so we're going to send you somewhere else." So I ended up in Norfolk on a attack troop transport on the USS Chilton.